morning, everybody. Welcome to Living Astrology with Janet. It's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back and relax while we chat about the week ahead as viewed from the stars, right? And the archetypes of the energies this week are all fiery: air, fire, and then water, or fire. Let's see, it goes water, fire, air, fire. So it's an interesting week ahead. And I have a lot to tell you about this morning because there are so many different layers to some of the energies that are occurring this week. We start the day today, or we start the week with water, actually, now that I think about it, because we have Mercury in Pisces in a trine to Jupiter in Cancer. That's water, 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 water. So we start with water, and then we move into tomorrow's solar eclipse in Aquarius at 28.50 degrees, darn near 29 degrees, a karmic degree nonetheless, and a degree that's highly important in the chart of the United States and also in its president, Donald Trump. And that is also the beginning of the Chinese Lunar Year, which is now it will be the year of the fire horse. The last time we had a year of the fire horse was in 1966, right smack in the middle of the Pluto-Uranus conjunction of the time that represented the revolution in civil rights, in women's rights, and many other things that were going on around the world. And then as we move later into the week, we get to the sun's move into Pisces on Ash Wednesday, and the sun in Pisces enters water into our conversation. And then on a Friday, which we'll talk more about on Friday, the Saturn Neptune conjunction in fire. So fire, fire. This is a week for us to remember our passions and our desires, as the Human Design Week also puts us smack dab in the middle of the energy of passion and desire. So while the week begins in water, we have this opportunity to start the week with the water trine. That is a beautiful movement of energy, of intuition, of memory, and really the emotional energy. So getting clear what it is that we're feeling, kind of aligning those feelings before we end up at the fire energy of the very next day. So today, this is Mercury in Pisces, which thinks in images, right? Pisces is a sign of spirit. It's a sign of the imagination and fantasy. And as such, it is often taking us into the imaginal realm where it speaks mostly in pictures, right? Not so much words, although Mercury's words will take on a little bit more of a picturesque quality, poetic even, during this period of time. And I also need to remind everybody that, because I'm not sure I mentioned it yet, that Mercury moves retrograde next week. So we are smack dab in the shadow of the next Mercury retrograde. So if your conversations are stilted, if you're having trouble with your technology or your laptops, computers, that would be why Mercury is in that shadow period. Now, Mercury also in Pisces speaks through intuition, and it actually feels before it reasons. So the emotions are sort of closer to the surface during this week. So if you're feeling more emotional, that would be just one reason why. Now, Jupiter is the planet that Mercury's in the trine to, and a trine being a smooth flow of energy back and forth between the planets. If Mercury rules the mind and communication, Jupiter rules how we grow and expand and how we amplify whatever it is in the planet that it's touching. So Jupiter in Cancer expands emotional intelligence, hopefully, right? that's, that's our highest expression, is that our expanding emotional intelligence becomes apparent. But Jupiter in Cancer also nurtures, and it protects, and it remembers what matters most. And when these two planets harmonize as they are today, then our intuition strengthens. We have the opportunity to, tap more fully into our emotional intelligence, conversations may soften even around some of the more difficult um, subjects that there may be out there to talk about. Our compassion, our heart centers expand, and we have a better access to a big picture understanding of what is happening around us, either, from the worldly stage or even within our own personal life. So this is kind of a heart mind coherence that occurs today, and that really does matter in the grand scheme of things, because the rest of the week is fire and fixed pressure, right? For all of us, wherever it is that you have a solar eclipse going on in your personal chart, wherever it is that you have Saturn and Neptune conjunct in Aries, and wherever it is that you have Uranus in Taurus, who is also playing a bit role in the solar eclipse tomorrow. And we're going to talk way more about that in just a few minutes. But today we're given some emotional wisdom first, perhaps staving off what could be an emotional explosion within our relationships, or even, just within the world at large. Now, why is this important? Why does this even make sense in the shadow of this upcoming solar eclipse that we have tomorrow? Well, the eclipse will be occurring in air. Aquarius is fixed air. Mars is also in Aquarius and is a part of the eclipse energy. So now we have ideological fire, right? Ideology coming from the sign of Aquarius, Mars bringing the fire energy of his dynamism. And those energies will be squaring Uranus. And in a way, that is all about disruption, right? Disruption in the world, disruption perhaps in your personal life or in the way that things are moving in your life. And then we have the dawning of the fire horse energy, which brings momentum to that eclipse as we move into tomorrow. So without this Mercury Jupiter trine, we might charge ahead too fast. We might let our heads get ahead of us. But the water trine says that we need to pause, that we can feel our way through something, that we need to listen to our inner voice, listen to the voices that are around us, and understand the emotional undercurrent that is being presented to all of us at this point in time. Now, water trine is bringing flow. So flowing energy. So now just because it's a trine doesn't mean it's all positive and all beautiful. It can be, but also the more ugly energies, the more negative energies can also flow quite freely in a trine energy. So we have to be aware of what it is that we're focusing on and not trying to force anything to happen, right? We don't need to force. Force actually would cause a reverb back at us. And yet, this is very highly creative energy as well. It creates from the depths. Now, the week begins with then this intuitive clarity that we could possibly be tapping into here today. Emotional reassurance that even though some things will be chaotic, that all is well, all is working in the way that it is meant to work. And it's a reminder to all of us that expansion does not require aggression, not does not require force, does not require our pushing of the river, right? It just it's not necessary to the whole experience of growth. Now, Mercury in Pisces carries collective empathy as well. Now, Jupiter in Cancer carries emotional memory. So we have empathy, we have emotions, we have feelings, we have a lot of big energies that are passing through all of us today. And so we might find this week beginning for all of us with meaningful conversations, perhaps a moment of forgiveness where we let go of our judgments of self and others, a realization about what really nourishes us individually, collectively, and a clearer emotional truth rising up. I feel it. I just feel it. And this is the kind of transit that really whispers, here's what your heart already knows, right? This is what your heart already knows. It knows that what's going on in the outer world isn't right. It knows that there is something better, a better way to do the things that are being done out there in the world. Now, if we contrast that with what comes next in the week, here's where it gets a little crazy because then the next day, tomorrow, we have the eclipse lighting the fire. This is a solar eclipse. And structurally, this means for us that we begin the week in water and we're going to end it in fire. Water and fire, steam, right? Steam energy. Water gives us the emotional intelligence, fire gives us movement. So the combination perhaps begins a conscious revolution. Wouldn't that be nice? People waking up and going, oh my God, what have we done? Why have we done what we've done? Right? Even though we might have had the best of intentions for doing some of the things that we've done, they are blowing up in our faces one after the other, and it is not going well. So, if you take nothing else from this particular week and this energy that begins in this very empathic, collective, nourishing energy, let your compassion guide you this week and let it guide you into courage, the courage to be your true and authentic self. But Mercury and Jupiter are giving you perspective as well before the pressure of the fire energy really begins. Now, as I'm saying this, I realize, of course, that eclipses don't happen as just a moment in time, even though technically this eclipse happens at 7:02 tomorrow morning, Pacific time. And yet, or I think that's Washington time and Washington, D.C. time. And yet, there's this idea that eclipse energy has already been building for at least the last 3 weeks, right? So we have been building toward tomorrow's solar eclipse energy. And at this point, then we have this possible moment in time of clarity and perspective as this fire pressure begins to really come to a crescendo. So listen now to what your inner voice is saying. Listen now to the emotional intelligence that is housed within you, because later you'll really need to call upon that clarity once the matches are lit in terms of that fire energy. So today is a really good day for us to be very intuitive, to maybe take some time for reflection before the fire energy sort of begins tomorrow. And I'm going to say good morning to people first, and then we're going to jump into the new moon solar eclipse. Very powerful one, even though it is a partial eclipse. Even though most of us around the world will not see this eclipse, it is there in the background. Good morning, Narges. Good to see you with us this morning. And Gayla, happy galactic family, or hello, galactic family. We are a happy galactic family as well. Willow Rose, good morning to you. J-Lo, good morning. Colleen, good to have you with us this morning. And Tamara, good morning to you. And others of you out there behind the scenes, good morning and welcome to the Living Astrology podcast this morning. So February 17th is a day that I had circled on my calendar back in 2025. Actually, as we were writing the Energy Almanac last year, this was a day, and the 20th. So this was the week of some really crucial energies that we've been looking at and kind of observing how it will be flowing as we, get to this day. And here we are, right? We are now the day before what is an eclipse, the dawning of the Chinese Lunar New Year with the year of the fire horse. And here we have an eclipse that sits in one of the final degrees of the sign of Aquarius, where we've had a lot of energy here, people, for quite a while. We still do. If I show you the chart, I'm going to add the chart to here so we can all see this. If you take a look at this chart, you see Aquarian energy. It's up here at the 9 o'clock position of the chart, and you see we still have Pluto. Of course, we will for a long time. We have the moon there already today, building up toward the solar eclipse tomorrow. We have Mars here. We have the sun here. So we're not done yet with the Aquarian energy. And that solar eclipse, as you can see, I've written it in right here with the dashed line, is occurring at 28 degrees, 50 minutes of the sign, like 10 minutes from being in the 29th degree, the karmic degree of this very future oriented and ideological sign. So this is literally a solar eclipse, brand new energy entering into the picture, but it's culmination energy. And it's also transition energy because the next sign is the transition, right? The next sign is that Pluto Virgo sign for the sun and moon to move to. But as eclipses go, this is also the first of these eclipses across Aquarius and Leo that signals the nodal shift later on in the year. So there's an element of something very new, something that we're moving toward. Yet there's also this energy of culmination and bringing things together in an ending that is also the doorway or the threshold to something new. So to me, this is bigger and brighter and highly energetic, right? Highly energetic. And this eclipse is asking you personally. You find where Aquarius is in your chart, and here's the symbol. It looks like water or energy lines. And Aquarius energy is all about what version of the future are you ready to commit to for yourself, but also as a community, as a nation, as a collective on the planet Earth, right? What vision are we, or what version, which also vision of ourselves are we willing to commit to? Because Aquarius here is not about comfort. Aquarius is about evolution. So we have this very evolutionary energy that's here with us. And this is a North Node eclipse. So every eclipse is either aligned with the North Node or the South Node. So it's the eclipses and their relative connection to the position of the sun and the moon that creates an eclipse, right? From the mechanics of the eclipse. So if you move forward into Pisces, you see that the eclipse is a North Node eclipse because right here at about 8 degrees is where we see the North Node. So this particular eclipse pulls us forward. This is not hearkening us to the past. This is bringing us forward, and it accelerates our destiny in some ways, right? Destiny is something that is pulling us forward, right? This is almost an electromagnetic energy. It introduces new chapters in our personal lives, but also new chapters in our communities and in our world at large. And it opens up doors that we didn't even know existed. So in your own personal life, you may be going, aha, there's this, right? I can move this direction. Now, this is also not about fixing the past. We can't fix the past. There is no fixing the past. It's dead. It's gone. It's happened. There's no life in it. It's not breathing. We cannot time travel backwards and change things there in order to make the future better. That is about us. This is about us stepping forward into what is next. And because it's Aquarius, it's a collective identity shift. It's a community reorganization time. It's a technological acceleration. I know some of you hate technology out there. You're not really happy about where technology is going, but we have that acceleration nonetheless. It is ideological reinvention, rethinking our stories, rethinking our narratives. And it is also your personal sovereignty within this group of people that you are a part of, whether it's a community, a state, if you're in, say, the United States, or a country, or for the world at large. Now, I want you to notice that the new moon, so a solar eclipse can only happen at the new moon. So when we have a new moon solar eclipse, we have a jacked up new moon. So we have a lot of potential energy for the new, for setting intentions, for as you know, as we're looking ahead at the future, not necessarily seeing it clearly yet, but being able to plant the seeds for what comes next. Now, I want you to notice that Mars is pretty close to this. It's at 1950 something degrees, or 19, I can't even read that, 1900 degrees. So it comes fairly close to, or actually at the eclipse time, he will be at let's see, the chart for tomorrow. He'll be at 1941, so almost 20 degrees. I would typically not think about this as being um, activated, but it's activated nonetheless this time. I just don't know how we could avoid Mars activation here, no matter how many degrees, right? It's pretty darn close. And Mars is close enough, I say, to flavor this particular eclipse. And Mars brings activation. Mars brings momentum and courage to the surface and conflict potentially if this isn't if it's misdirected energy. So we have Aquarius Mars, which equals, I think, revolutionary fire. But this is air. It's an air sign with a fire planet, and we have fixed energy in Aquarius. So the fire here isn't necessarily impulsive. It's more long burning than that. It has a sustained a burn to it. It's strategic. It's possibly ideological, the ideological burn. It's an I believe in this future kind of energy, and I will fight for it energy. I believe in this possible future, and I will fight for that future. So this is the kind of energy when Mars is involved in an eclipse like this that says, I will not shrink from my vision. Whatever vision I'm holding, I won't shrink from it. I will keep moving and progressing and moving it forward or allowing its momentum to pull me into the future. I also know that this solar eclipse at 28.50 degrees, I know right now today the sun is at 27 if you look at that, but tomorrow it'll be at 28.50 degrees during the eclipse. And it is in a square then to the planet Uranus in Taurus, also a fixed sign, but that is fixed Earth. And then that made me think about, is this breakdown or breakthrough? Right? I think it could be either breakdown or breakthrough. Now, this is really important because the eclipse squares Uranus and Taurus, squares. There's a lot of tension and pressure here to change, to move forward. And Uranus represents disruption. He represents awakening. He represents shock waves that roll through the collective, sudden liberation, sudden freedom. And then Taurus rules our economy, the banking system, stability, our values, the literal body, and also the earth. This is earth energy. So we have tension between our future vision, Aquarius, and the present material security in Taurus. So it can feel like financial surprises, either personally or collectively, right? It can be the value system that gets shaken up. It can be changes in our physical stability. And it can also be breakthrough ideas that disrupt our comfort zones, right? Taurus gets us in that comfort zone, fixed signs. God help us get us in a comfort zone. And these energies of eclipses and so forth, they come along and they shake us out of that comfort zone. And squares, by their very nature, create action. And Uranus doesn't ask politely, it just disrupts, right? It liberates, it shakes us up. And the question then becomes, where are you clinging to security that is actually preventing your evolution? That's preventing you personally from moving forward. That's preventing us as a collective moving forward. Now, I also noted that in this particular eclipse, we have Saturn and Neptune in fire, right? Aries, and their exact conjunction comes on Friday, but they're within 16 minutes, 16 arc minutes, not minutes like on a clock, but sort of like that, just very bullet burn close to one another at this solar eclipse. And to me, that also is a harbinger of some very big changes that makes this sort of a rare eclipse, if you will, a rare time in our history. And it's huge in the bigger like scheme of things. If we step back and we look in to see all of this happening in 1 week, in one eclipse window, it's pretty profound. And remember that Saturn is about structure and form, responsibility and reality, while Neptune is about dreams and ideals and spirit dissolving boundaries. And when they meet, our dreams demand structure in order to be made manifest. And the structures dissolve if they're not aligned with spirit. So they're working together so that we have a direct course to the future, right? To something new, to our sovereignty. So this new moon solar eclipse becomes a seed moment. Obviously, it's always a seed moment, but it happens right before reality and vision merge, before the vision and the future become the same. And this is building something visionary then for all of us within the world, but also within our own lives. But it's got to be grounded, right? We can't build if we don't have the stability, if we don't have the foundation. So we have no more fantasy here. We have to take this imagination and we have to build something with it. No more vague spirituality. We have to really have the faith that it takes to build mountains. No more drifting, no more just sliding from one side to the other. This will be energy that really propels us forward in some profound way. And that means this is the future that is ready to be built, right? This is the one that we can actually build, right? If we take the steps. Now, I also want you to look at this chart because all of the planets are in what is called the northern hemisphere of the chart. Yes, we have the midheaven and the black moon Lilith and the south node up above, but almost every physical planet that we use in astrology is in the northern hemisphere of this chart. Now, it may be different in your own personal chart, but for the chart that is of the event, everything is below this horizon or above this horizon, if you will. And this emphasizes then this northern hemispheric focus is about our personal development. This is about the individual that is part of a collective. This is the inner foundation for which you have your future being built, or you're building on your future. This is self definition, you defining who you are, what you want, where you're going, how you're going to get there. This is internal restructuring, right? Changing your beliefs about yourself, changing the narrative, the voices in your head. This is you letting go of all of that old all of that old energy, all of the stuff in your head that has held you back, right? All of the things that you are keeping and holding on to from the past that, keeps you locked into a certain behavior, a certain belief system. Right. So even though Aquarius energy is pretty collective energy, the eclipse is asking you to personally engage in who you are becoming, right? Not leaving it to the collective to define you, but you defining yourself within the boundary of the collective. What are you anchoring yourself into? What are you anchoring within yourself? Also, what inner shift has to occur before your outer world reflects it, right? Because that's the case. It never, what you see in your outer world has been created by the inner beliefs that you've been holding, the inner conversations that you've been having. Nothing in the outer world comes first. It's everything that comes first from the inner world. And then we see it change. So if you don't like what you see outside you in your own personal life, then it's up to you to change the conversation that's going on within you, right? To really reflect upon what it is that you are seeing and why. Okay. So the revolution starts within each one of us. All right. Now, there's this fire horse year. I want to stop this for a second. There's this fire horse energy that is also happening here. And fire horse, amplifies, this year is amplified by the Chinese fire horse symbology because the fire horse energy is bold and it's independent. It's unstoppable. Think of a herd of horses thundering down, the plains, and how they're not here to be managed. How do you manage that? It's very difficult to corral a wild horse, if you will. So, I mean, I don't know how rare. I should have looked this up. It could be quite rare to have an actual eclipse occurring on the same day as the Chinese Lunar Year is occurring, right? That would make it that this could really only happen maybe every 20 years or so. Interesting to think about that. So this eclipse is not passive. This isn't you sitting back and just watching the show and seeing what it is that happens. This is your participation. Your participation is mandatory, and it's built in fire, but it's forged with the future in mind, right? This is future focused new moon energy. It's a gateway. We integrate all of this energy, all of this information. This is a gateway. It's not necessarily a chaotic ending, it's kind of a more strategic beginning as we look ahead. And because it's a North Node eclipse, it is like a feeling of being pulled towards something, being pulled towards your destiny, and you're drawn toward it. You're compelled to move in that particular direction. So pay attention, all of you, right now, even starting today. Start really paying attention to what new invitations you're receiving from the outer world or from your friends or from life in general. Pay attention to the new ideas, those little sparks of creative energy that are coming to you. Pay attention to the new communities that are popping up around you or that you are, invited to participate in. New roles that may be popping up for you to be invited into or, become a part of. Because those things that are new that are showing up aren't random. It's a trajectory, it's an arc that you're taking, right? An arc that you are riding, let's say, in your life. And with Uranus involved in this eclipse, of course, it's the expect the unexpected. That's just the way it goes. But remember that Uranus doesn't disrupt us to punish, it does so to free us, to liberate us from something. So, this particular eclipse is really not about controlling the future because sometimes I think the future is what we're moving toward. It's, we're compelled to move in a new direction. It's about our alignment with it. It's like seeing the way ahead and moving ourselves toward that new energy. And then Saturn and Neptune, who are about to merge their energies in Aries, the eclipse plants the seed. Mars lights the fuse to what is going to be the next steps. Uranus is shaking the ground under our feet, maybe literally. We'll have to see about that. The North Node pulling us forward. And, you know, you might have felt like in your life so far you've been behind the eight ball. You haven't, done the big things. And maybe you felt like you were late, but you are not, right? You are standing at a gateway now. So choose consciously where you go next, right? That's what this new moon is about, choosing consciously. And, interestingly enough, the sun and moon tomorrow are still in the gate 30. We talked about this on Friday. The earth will not be there, but sun and moon will be together in the gate 30 called the gate of passion. And when we look at Mars, Mars will be in the gate 49, the gate of revolution, a revolution in passion, passion that creates revolution, right? Personally, collectively, this is emotionally charged energy. So the eclipse from the position, the point of view of the human design is sitting on the emotional solar plexus. It is filled with energy. Remember gate 30 or gene key 30 in its shadow is desire or hunger that goes unfulfilled. And in the gift, it's holding these desires that we have with lightness, with possibility, with where we, what we have this open mind and, we can see this path ahead. And the siddhi or the highest expression is rapture, right? Rapture, which feels so expressive, doesn't it? Like just pure excitement, pure joy, perhaps, and bliss in seeing, our desires made manifest, our passion being, put out into the world. So gate 30 is the fire of feeling, It's longing, it's yearning, it's emotional, and it's emotional intensity that's seeking an experience. By the way, this is the thing. It's all in the line 5 of your human design. And in the line 5 carries projection energy. It carries influence as well. It carries the potential to impact the collective in a very big way. So this eclipse is asking you, what are you emotionally investing in? And are you investing in your passion and your love and your desire, or are you afraid to go there? And is that desire that you have, is it aligned with your future? Is it something really truly aligned for you, or are you aligning with it because it's a default, right? Or it's something that's acceptable by other people? So, in the shadow frequency, the gate 30 burns in its attachment to its desire. It says, I must have this outcome. In the gift frequency, it becomes this lightness, and it's the I'm willing to feel deeply, but without clinging to how I think it should happen, right? And that's the key right here with this, eclipse that's squaring Uranus, with this eclipse in a very future oriented position. Feel it, but don't grip it. Don't hold on so tightly to your concept of what the future is. Just allow it, right? This is maybe passion without possession, right? You don't have to possess the future. And yet we have revolution energy as well. Mars sitting in the gate 49, the gate of revolution, also on the emotional solar plexus. So it's emotional, it's creative energy. The shadow in this particular gate is called reaction. In the gift, it's revolution. And in the siddhi, or the highest expression, this energy is rebirth. It's very powerful energy. Gate 49, though, is also about principles. And it's the gateway that says, this agreement no longer works, right? You've deviated from the principles that we've laid as a template for our nation, for our community, for our family. And it's time to reorient back to those principles, to realign with them. Now, Mars has just moved into the gate 49 at this point. So it's in the first line, and the first line is foundational. It's an internal alignment with revolutionary energy. So it's not, this is not overtly outer rebellion that comes up first. It's really the inner conviction that you have to have in order to create the revolution or the rebellion in your life. And under the shadow of this energy, the gate 49 reacts, not responds, it reacts. It cuts off, it rejects, it burns bridges emotionally. Under the gift, in the energy of revolution, it's not destruction, it's actually transformation on the agreement itself. What do we agree to in the new? And Mars here adds heat and fire. He adds dynamism, motion that moves us forward. And it can feel volatile. It can definitely feel volatile. That it's also emotionally charged, volatility. Do I think this is everybody going to be emotionally intelligent? No, I don't think so. Not yet. I'm not sure that we are ready to be emotionally intelligent, at least not in the main. But you personally can be, right? So while this can feel emotionally charged, it is also principles driven, and it is gate 30, the sun and moon, igniting that desire that we have to move forward, to do things differently, to be our best selves. The gate 49, Mars reforming the contract. What is the agreement that you made? And then this says, I feel something deeply, but also I will no longer participate in the things that dishonor that feeling. This is profound. This is on an individual basis, right? And this is important because we're in an eclipse season, and it's a north node eclipse pulling us to the future. It's squaring Uranus, which gives us the potential for liberation and awakening. It's the pressure for that awakening. Saturn and Neptune coming into their conjunction. This is the restructuring of the dream of our future. And it's all in this week, right, that we're working with. So it's not a random emotional drama that's going on in the world. This is evolutionary fire. And I've said this many times, right? The key question becomes, are you reacting to what's going on out there, or are you consciously revolutionizing your own inner self, your own inner world, so that you will see it reflected to you outside of you? And then gate 49, Mars doesn't just destroy systems, right? It refines them, it purifies them. In some ways, it aligns them with integrity, or at least at the very least shows us where it's out of integrity. And gate 30 doesn't just crave, it awakens that aliveness in us, the what we want to do to move forward. So this is going to be a week, no matter how we look at it, of heightened emotional energy, strong convictions from either side, right, in the world, a sense that certain agreements are over, done, we're done with that, and a pull towards something that's much more aligned with a future of integrity, honesty, truth. But it's also fiery energy, and so fire sometimes burns. It's beautiful, it's fiery, it can be somewhat destructive, but I don't see this as necessarily destructive so much as what's born from what has already been destroyed, what more is possible here. So, this revolution really is beginning in emotional clarity for each one of us, but not emotional reactivity. But the world, by and large, is still very emotionally reactive. So you personally watch your emotional response, right? Watch for emotional response. So this is fire that forges us for a future, or forges a future, not fire that scorches. Hopefully we can keep that in mind. Now, I'm going to go into in a few minutes what fire energy is all about. But I also noticed something really fascinating in the grand scheme of things energetically. And that is, when countries are born, they have charts, right? They have the energy of planets, just like a person does, right? So here in the United States, our moon, the moon, which is the people, the representation of the people, sits at about 26 point something something Aquarius. And that puts this solar eclipse right on top of the people of the United States, right? And as I was looking at that, this is, or I'm sorry, our 27 Aquarius is our USA moon. And that means this is particularly impactful, I think, for the USA. Really watch some of the things that are happening in the news cycle, not to be depressed or made angry or upset by it, but to see sort of the opportunities that are coming up for us to realign the agreements that we've made. And I also noted that this eclipse lands on Trump's descendant. The descendant is the point in your chart that's opposite of the ascendant. So, where the ascendant is you, the face that you put forward to the world, the descendant is you within relationships, within the agreements that you've made, and so forth. So, as I was thinking about this whole thing, to me, it was like the possibility of a change in direction coming from Trump, right? And how he's rewriting agreements. And I think this actually could be something that we could talk about in a bigger way as a separate kind of show. But I also noted something else. The the chart of the nuclear age, which was set when the atom bomb was first developed, its nodal axis, the node, the future, the destiny, and the past, where was it born from, was across the 28 degrees of Leo and Aquarius. Its south node was at 28 Aquarius, and its north node was at 28 degrees Leo. So I'm wondering how the nuclear picture is being changed at this moment, right? To me, it's maybe new technology related to the nuclear chart, maybe fusion versus fission, right? Fusion meaning it would be a cleaner energy, less volatile energy, versus fission, which can be, as we know, very explosive and damaging. Is there some kind of nuclear conflict that comes up? And nuclear, not necessarily meaning like a nuclear bomb. It could be something that changes from the inside out, something going on, in an inner way that explodes outward. So it's not just a solar eclipse in Aquarius, it's hitting fundamentally some important people and charts of events and the birth of a nation that may indeed show up in our everyday world as time goes on. So I just find it fascinating, right, that this is all happening. Okay. Let's see. Questions. Good morning, Jana and Christine and Lo. She says, I'm ready for this. This will be conjunct my 10th house. My natal Mars is at 856, Lilith 838, conjunct in the 10th house. What are you putting out there in the world? Question, what were you born for? And how do you align with that? How do you move forward with that? Good morning, Veronica. It's good to have you with us. Pam Zaruba, nice to see you. How is this eclipse figuring in our 250th year as a country? I feel it's connected. Indeed, right? I mean, and again, I think this really kind of deserves its own show, really, or own broadcast, because I still have other things to talk about this morning. But when you think about it happening right on top of the moon, which represents, in the moon in your own personal chart represents your emotional self, right? Your intuition, and how your sensitivity. But in the chart of a nation, it represents we the people, right? We the people. And we had a very Aquarian vision for the future, right? Everything about our Constitution. I mean, it begins with we the people, right? In order to form a more perfect union, right? We were the makers of the contract that is the USA, we the people. And I think, as we think about Aquarian energy, we're talking a collective identity. We're talking about social movements, and we're talking about networks and ideological alliances, and how do those change over time? How does the mood of the people of a nation, our nation, the USA, change over time? And symbolically, then the Aquarian solar eclipse, at the same degree as the USA's moon, talks about maybe new alliances forming, maybe existing alliances shifting, which we're seeing every day anyway, right? We've been seeing that. Public partnerships that are being redefined. And sometimes those partnerships are being, stomped on and destroyed, as opposed to being shifted in any way that's powerful and positive. Open adversaries that come into visibility, right? I think it's becoming very obvious how the alignments are occurring, in our outer world. But it's also a recalibration of who stands with me versus who stands against me, right? And that's kind of an old loyalty conversation that our current president depends on, right? The current president really depends on loyalty. And I think we have some shifting loyalties occurring as time goes on here. But because eclipses accelerate timelines, technically, and events around the world, that the political, the strategic, the adversarial, and the legal, and the people's relationship to all of those things can move more quickly than usual. And I think that you add the square to Uranus and Taurus here, and we have, a stand being enabled by for our values, for what it is that we the people stood for, what we stand for, what have we allowed to go on that we say stand up and say no more, right? No more. We need to go back to, or we need to move forward to a new way of being with one another. So it does suggest that perhaps this eclipse brings a bit of instability, maybe even some sudden developments and alliances that are tied to resources or to loyalty in itself, or material security. But this is all about a deeper layer of the future for the United States of America, having the people be the point that the moon and sun will be sitting at during this eclipse. So it doesn't mean that something dramatic has to occur. So I'm not like thinking, something huge and giant, but I do mean that likely some kind of relationship dynamics will be shifting. And maybe the broader collective wakes up and says, we're not down with this anymore. Right? We thought you were going to do one thing, but you've blown it, and now we need to rewrite those agreements. We'll see what happens with all of this. And um it's kind of exciting, chilling in a way as well, because we also have the Saturn Neptune conjunction in all of this. That was a civil war when it occurred, last, um in Aries at 0 degrees of Aries. So much potential, Pam. I mean, this is the long answer to your little question there. So much potential lies in the future for the United States if we can get beyond the billionaire boys club, right? If we can get beyond concepts of loyalty, and that is really more like fealty as opposed to loyal, right? What are we being loyal to? Who are we being loyal to? So big questions that are yet to be answered. Now, if we couple this then with the fire horse energy, the lunar year. Now, I'm not a Chinese astrologer, so I don't know how all of that plays out so much, but I do know what fire horse energy represents. And it is independent energy. It is fiercely independent, sovereign, if you will, sort of Aries feeling, right? It's fast moving, it's courageous, it's restless, and it's freedom seeking. So we have some pretty big energies that we're familiar with Aries, and Aries, taking on a bigger part of the stage of our experience here. And fire horse energy is also charismatic. So I'm looking for a character possibly born in 66 to 68, perhaps 66, 67, that will be a charismatic character that rises to the surface, that comes in like the white horse, like knight on in shining armor, that changes up the conversation. So who will that be? Well, I do not know, but watch for it, right? The horse energy does not like fences, and it runs toward open terrain. Now, if we add fire to that, we get the fire of amplified passion, of visibility, of urgency, of leadership, and dramatic change, perhaps, and even inspirational energy. Fire horse energy isn't subtle. So the year itself is not subtle. Remember, it's a 1 year. A universal one is all about new beginnings, right? That new beginning, that new fresh start. And it doesn't wait for permission. This is head on, headlong energy. And it doesn't move cautiously, it moves powerfully. And it doesn't shrink to fit. It doesn't. It just is, right? And it's bold, individualistic. Sometimes it's volatile, but also visionary and very alive energy. The fire horse is the archetype of the I will not be contained person, right? I will not be contained. Now, even if you were not born in the fire horse year, you were born, you are living in and through the year of the fire horse. So sometimes these characteristics will take hold in your own personal life. Now, the last time the fire horse was activated was in 1966. And as I said earlier in the broadcast, that was the year that Uranus and Pluto came into conjunction in Virgo. And it's still reverberating through our consciousness even now. And that conjunction was revolutionary. It was disruptive. Think about all that was going on in 1966, 65, 66, 67. And it was anti establishment, it was systems breaking, it was very youth driven. And there's a lot of talk in our news these days about the youth, right? About the generations that, were born post boomer. And think about what was happening in 1966. Civil rights momentum was building and intensifying. The cultural revolutionary energy was rising and getting more vocal. Vietnam War protests were beginning to build. And of course, that would be a crescendo over the next 10 years from that point in time. Institutional authority was being questioned and traditional systems were being challenged. And that sounds so familiar, doesn't it? Sounds so familiar because as Pluto and Uranus came into their square energy just a few months back, we had a resurgence of that energy and a rebuilding of this. And together, it was a dismantling of systems from the inside out because it was in Virgo. The fire horse year occurred in the middle of all of that. And it amplified the rebellion, the revolutionary nature of that energy. It accelerated the fire and it gave it personality. So the fire horse energy doesn't create revolution by itself, but it gives revolution the legs that it needs to take off and run. And that is the typical energy of horse. Horse represents power and independence and, everything that we think of as, this beautiful liberation, freedom energy. Now, today we don't have Pluto conjunct Uranus, right? We've got Pluto in Aquarius, though, setting up the stage for a whole new future. And we do have something very potent going on here because the energy of Pluto and Uranus right now are in fixed signs. So we are sort of upsetting things that have been entrenched, right? So fire horse energy comes along and upsets the apple cart. And it's not necessarily quick flash kinds of disruption or change, it's sustained change. So we're going to see this pattern of sustained change over the course of the year. And anything that's been deeply entrenched coming up, right? For, think about some of the stories that we're seeing out there in the world. I think it's a continuation of changes that have been happening for us for a long time. Changes in ideology, in our social structure and social organizations, and things changing around money and resources and land and food and the body and our value systems and the financial system, big time change, technology, and the ecosystems. Community power, sovereignty, themes. We've talked about these, right? These are the themes that just get maybe a little more loud over these next months from now until next February. So it's not as chaotic because Pluto and Uranus aren't necessarily in a conjunction at this point, but it is an evolutionary acceleration of what has been changing. And the key is that the horse runs when it sees open ground. So when an opportunity opens up, that horse energy will push forward toward it. And with Pluto and Aquarius, the open ground is the future, right? That's the future. And with Uranus and Taurus, it's the ground itself that's shifting, right? The whole foundation of things shifting. So, unlike the 1966 fire horse year, the explosive reset that was through the culture, I feel like this is going to be a forging process where we've seen the ugly of the ugly, and now it's time to forge our way forward. And if we bring all of that back now to the eclipse that's occurring here tomorrow, we see this is fire horse energy embodied in the eclipse. It's passion meeting principles. And it's also, in a way, this evolutionary pressure that we have from it being a North Node eclipse that is paired with structural, visionary dream building energy, the Saturn Neptune, conjunction occurring like within days, hours of this. And yet this isn't reckless fire. This is fire that's forging a future. And it can feel volatile. It can feel disconcerting. But volatility is not destructive if you are using it consciously. Therein lies the key. Can we use it consciously? So I've really only gotten to about half of what it was that I wanted to talk about this morning, which is usually my case. I didn't get to talk about the sun moving into Pisces on Ash Wednesday. So we enter into a time of water. After all of this fire energy, we go to water. And then on Friday, we go back to fire, and fire and water create steam. Fire and water create pressure. Fire and water makes us move forward. So I'm wondering if I'll have another video out for you all to listen to that will take in the rest of the powerful energy for this week. Karen's Corner, good morning. She said, this is the final hit of my 40-year transits of Pluto opposing her 28-degree Leo Pluto. I hope I learned. I bet you did. And I hope you're empowered, because that's exactly what this would have been all about. Gala, did you know in ancient China they would kill fire horse babies at birth? No. They were known to bring chaos into families and economic crisis and death. It is a very young energy, and many of my friends are born in 66, and they are all artists and anarchists. To be noted, do not forget that horses are very intuitive and can read people and energies. Definitely that too. Chinese masters recommend not using red, but white and blue and yellow to tone down that fire. I love it. Thank you for that, Gayla. Great idea. Nargis, thank you. The reminder out there, please hit the thumbs up button if you are on Facebook, hit the like button if you are on YouTube, and share the video with your friends. Share it out there widely so people understand what it is that we're experiencing here. Because I dare say some of you are experiencing this energy in big ways in your life, and even though you know about it consciously, it's still disconcerting. Right? So the more you hear, the more you learn, the more you know, the more this can become conscious, and we can move our collective in positive directions. All right, everybody, take care. You still have time to register for Saturday's Astrology of 2026 webinar, and I will post that link in Facebook and also in the description for the YouTube video. All right, guys, thanks for joining me today. Bye for now.